If you're in a situation where you should do something and the excuses roll in, you only have 5 seconds before the excuses win. It has to do with how your brain is designed. I started seeing this 5-second window everywhere. You walk into a networking meeting and the 5-second window is right there because you look around and you see all these people you should talk to and you feel yourself freeze. If you're trying to sell something, the 5-second window is always there because you either have a phone you need to pick up and make a phone call or you have a person you need to talk to, but instead of doing it, that 5-second window's right there and the excuses roll in and then you're not doing it. Yep. What's more sophisticated about it is that you have 2 modes to your brain. You have the prefrontal cortex, which is the mode of your brain. It's the front part of your brain that does all your strategic planning. It's what you're using when you're acting with courage. It's what you're using when you are learning anything new. If you've ever taken a standardized test, when you walk out of a standardized test, what do you have? You have a freaking headache because you've been using this part of your brain. The other part is the interior part of your brain, which automates everything. It's where self-doubt is. It's where habits are. It's where automated decision-making is. It's where every negative shit that we do, it's stuck right here. And so the problem with our excuses, if you want to get into the brain science, is that if you start to think, and you start to think, I feel tired, or I don't want to, or I'm too stressed out, or now's not the right time, that becomes automatic and it gets encoded right here. So part of the problem with our excuses is that when you stop and think and hesitate, you trigger your brain to automatically talk you out of it. That's the problem. It's not the excuses, it's that your brain has done it over and over and now it takes over. So I invented the world's most powerful cheat code for the brain. One night when I was drunk, sitting in my living room watching television.
Need motivation?
You better watch a Top 10 with Believe Nation.
Hey, it's Carmichael, and I make these videos because you are probably the most ambitious person in your circle, but you know you're capable of more, and you get that push by surrounding yourself with the best. So today, let's learn from one of the best, Mel Robbins, and my take on her top 50 rules for success. Enjoy.
In order to make it stick, go brick by brick. In order to make it stick, go brick by brick. One of the things that's interesting about having big dreams and big goals is that oftentimes the fact that the goals and the dreams that we have are so big, it makes them really, really difficult to achieve because you spend so much time thinking about how big the idea or the dream is that you become paralyzed in the moment around taking action. How do you build a house? By laying a foundation, brick by brick by brick. You go one small brick at a time. And it's exactly the same thing for your goals, by the way. So if you think about where you're at in this moment and you think about the path that will take you forward to your big dreams or to this change that you want to make. And I'm going to use the eating program as my example because this is daunting to me. I can come up with a million reasons right now, just like I'm sure you can come up with a million reasons why you can't run a marathon, you can't do the singing telegram business, you can't take nature pictures for a living, you can't be more connected to your husband, which is what Leanne wants, you can't launch that aromatherapy business. I can't possibly do a structured eating program with a scale right now because I travel too much, because I'm too busy, because I'm lazy, because I'm not deliberate like my bracelet. Remember my intent bracelet? I'm reminding myself to be deliberate, which is probably why I'm thinking about this program. The path between where I'm at and where you want to get to is the same. It is a brick path, and it is comprised of a ton of little bricks that come together to take me forward. And so when you think about a goal or you think about a dream as a million little bricks that come together and lay a path forward, that's the way visually you can break down your goals. And so for me, you know what that one brick could be today? It could be asking Chris or my brother-in-law for the phone number of the person. Not even making the call, people. I'm talking about breaking it down to one brick. So I will get that phone number and I will write it down in my little red book, or I will write it down in my 5-second journal. And that way I will have the number. And guess what the brick is going to be tomorrow? The brick tomorrow is going to be to call the guy, right? And make an appointment. And then the next brick might be to read a little bit. And so the key is going brick by brick to make it stick. Because if you think you can lay the whole path between where you're at and where you want to go right now, you're nuts. I started thinking about luck because there are For a long time in my life, I started to think that luck was for other people, that luck was just one of those things that if you were lucky enough to be born with luck, you won the lottery, you got the job you wanted, your family got along. And the truth is, there's a tremendous amount of science behind luck, that luck is something that you can make for yourself, that you can become luckier based on the things that you do and the things that you think about. And one of the things about lucky people is a lot of lucky people make their luck because they have trained themselves to think optimistically. And one small trick that you can use in your life that is free, you can do it today, is when you go to bed tonight, before you go to sleep, I want you to write down one thing that happened today that was good. That's it. Every night before you go to bed, I want you to write down one thing that happened today that's good. In fact, let's do it right now. In the comments, go to the comments and tell me one thing that has happened today that you can think of that's good. Just one thing. Maybe you got up on time. Maybe you didn't have traffic today on the way to work. Maybe you haven't fought with your kids this morning. Maybe you got to the gym. Maybe you woke up and for the first hour of the day, you didn't make yourself wrong. All of those things, while they're really little, don't dismiss them, because those are things that are good. And the reason why I want you to start a practice where every night before you go to bed, or if you don't want to do it at night, do it in the morning, every night before you go to bed, write down one thing that happened today that was good. The reason why you're doing this is you are training yourself to start to spot the good. Believe it or not, training yourself to start to look for the good in your life fundamentally trains your mind away from looking at the negative, so that you start seeing this thing that's positive about your life versus that thing that's negative about your life. And the secret to life, and this is so hard to grasp, is to just be yourself. That's the secret. There's only one you. There's only ever going to be one you. There's never going to be another you. And the way you make your mark in this world, the way that you learn how to believe in yourself, the way that you discover the people that you're supposed to surround yourself with, the job that you or career path that you're supposed to have, is by being the real you.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there.
Mel, I got fired from a job I was really excited about. What should I do? Excellent question. First of all, how many of you have ever been fired from a job? Yep, I have been fired from a job, and let me tell you something. It's a kick in the teeth, doesn't it? There is nothing that feels worse in the moment than being brought into a conference room and being let go. And then how bad does it blow to pack up your stuff and to leave? It stings. It is terrible. It is humiliating. There is nothing around it. There's nothing around that feeling, even if it's a job that you can't stand. Even if it's a job where you've been looking for another job, even if you know in your heart that this is the biggest blessing in disguise because you didn't really like it there, you still want to be the one to rip off the Band-Aid, don't you? You want to be the one to walk in and be like, guess what, people? I found a different job. I'm out of here. So when they beat you to the punch and they tell you the truth, that this isn't working, it's not working for them, it's not working for you, and now it's time for you to leave, it is still a kick in the teeth. So I want to be clear about something. Feeling down, feeling embarrassed, feeling angry about how it was handled, even if they handled it in the way that is legal, that is normal. It's normal because it blows to be rejected. And that's exactly what happens to you emotionally when you get fired from a job. I get that because boy, oh boy, have I been there. I have been fired from jobs that I actually liked. I have been fired from jobs that I needed. And I have been fired from jobs that I viscerally hated, that I was physically sick going to work every morning. I hated it so much. And it still stinks when you're fired. So here's what I want you to do when you're fired. I want you to really just relish in how much it stinks for, I don't know, an hour. No more than 24 hours. You get to milk this puppy for free, a free dinner from your pals at night. You get to milk this and complain about it to all your friends for 24 hours. And then guess what? You got to stop complaining about it. You got to stop thinking about it because you don't have a choice anymore. The job is over, and I don't want you looking back. I want you looking forward. Now, before you look forward, though, I want you to do one of the signature things that we talk about all the time. And what is that? I want you to look for the message in the mess. What is it that you learned about yourself or about a job or a boss or a kind of work that you need to make sure you understand the message in the mess? Because when you get the emotion out of the way, guess what you always see about a job or a breakup that happens? You always see that was exactly what was supposed to happen. That job, that person, that manager, that focus, that was holding you back. And you were just too scared to take the leap. You were too worried about finances. You were worried about how it looked. I've been there. I get it. But you need to see the message in the mess, because I don't want you to make the mistake and step into the exact same thing or the exact same type of job or the exact same management situation that didn't work the first time, because part of the reason why jobs don't work is it's not a fit. You see, people get fired for a lot of reasons. Some of the reasons why people get fired is because the companies are not doing well. And in that case, you want to thank your lucky stars that you're getting out now so that you can find something better. If it's not a fit, that's a more nuanced reason to get fired. But let me tell you something. If it's not a fit for the company, it wasn't a fit for you either. And so look for the message in the mess. What are you going to learn about this situation? Whether there was a skill gap and you need to bring your skills up to speed so that you're not floundering your next job. Or maybe it was a personality gap, that you accepted something that in your heart you knew wasn't right, but you took it because you had to or because you felt insecure. Don't make that mistake again. You know that wave that you feel, or your tongue gets numb, or you get tightness in your cheeks, or you freeze? You know when that happens? Based on the science, there is only a 90-second chemical release in your body. It's called the 90-second rule. When your stomach starts to flutter, when your heart starts to race, when you feel this feeling of fear that you have that's unique to you, based on the science, there's a 90-second rule, and all of the chemical release that's happening, because your body is going into a state of being alert, it only sticks around for 90 seconds. As long as you don't let your thoughts race. If your thoughts start to race, you'll start to agitate the situation. So the next time that your body goes into a state of alert, stomach gets tight, you feel frozen, you get stuck, you feel your neck, when the body starts to do that, number one, just remember, it means your body is getting ready to be alert and pay attention. And it does not mean you're going to lose control. It does not mean you're in danger. It does not mean to stop or to shut up. I want you to take a deep breath. Count to 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's it. And realize that the hormones that just got released because you're about to do something, they only last 90 seconds. That's it. You can breathe slowly. You can count to 90. You can get up and walk around. You can do 90 seconds of jumping jacks. You can meditate for 90 seconds. You can ground your feet in your chair and wiggle a minute so that you feel your body in your chair. And take deep breaths. And what you're going to find is that you're going to be blown away. You're going to be blown away because what you're going to see is that in 90 seconds flat, you can go from being somebody who has an upset stomach and who would normally not go talk to your boss, who would normally not walk into that gym, who would normally not make that call. In 90 seconds flat, you can manipulate your body state to calm down, and you will notice that your thoughts do not race. Your thoughts calm down, you're in full control, and now you can speak up, and now you can show up. The truth is, if you want control in your life, if you want to make things happen, you have to be able to expect that you're going to get a no and do it anyway. So what do I mean when I say, if you want control, expect a no? Well, there's a couple things that I mean by it. Number one, if you're somebody that gets paralyzed because you want things to be perfect, perfectionism is a way that most of us try to handle or mitigate or make sure that we don't hear no. We assume that if we're perfect, everything's going to go okay. And so we spend all of our energy thinking about our dating profile or thinking about the business plan or thinking about how to make things perfect. And the reason why we do that is we're terrified to hear no. We're terrified to put something out there that's not perfect, because if it's not perfect, you might get a no. One of the better ways to handle this is to actually expect a no. You know, I saw the most incredible quote by our friend Faustina over in Australia. She's a very famous DJ and friend of ours from Australia. And she put out the most amazing quote, and I'm going to get it totally wrong. But it's something like this. You have to be yourself, because how else are the people who are looking for you going to find you? And I think particularly when it comes to dating, what we tend to do is we are so afraid of being rejected by anybody out there that we try to be somebody that we're not, that we put out a fake, improved, or what we think is improved version of ourselves in order to not hear no. And most of us pretend to be somebody that we're not when we fear rejection, when we believe that how we are, who we are, isn't good enough. And so that's why it's so important for you to understand that you have to be willing to hear a no. You have to be willing to hear a no from the wrong people, so that the people that are looking for you can find you, so that the people who want to be part of your business can be part of your business. If you're putting a fake person out there or a pretend perfect person out there because you think that's going to save you from rejection, you're actually screwing yourself over. Here's your new definition of passion. Passion is simply energy. That's all that it is, okay? Passion is what you feel when you are energized and excited about what you're doing, okay? I want you to think about that for a minute. I want you to think about a moment in time when you felt incredibly passionate about something, okay? And why don't you in the comments tell me, where are you watching from? And tell me about a moment in time when you felt incredibly passionate about what you were doing, about where you were, about the people that you were with. Describe that moment for me, because when you start to really investigate passion as energy, this is what you're going to discover. Those moments when you were super passionate, like I'm sure my kids would write down when they're doing community theater with all their friends. I would write down whenever I'm doing any kind of creative project with my team, I'm incredibly energized. Whenever I'm doing group exercise stuff, climbing a mountain, doing a 5K race, doing some sort of walkathon, I'm incredibly energized by that. Whenever I'm doing some sort of creative project, incredibly energized by that. Whenever I'm working with our video team, incredibly energized by that. Whenever I am coaching someone or giving advice, I am incredibly energized by that. And so what I want you to understand is that if you look back on your life, you have had moments where you have felt passion. Now, I'm being very deliberate in how I'm talking this morning on Coffee Talk because passion is a huge topic for so many of you. And you've been so focused on trying to figure out what job is going to make me passionate. What job is my passion? What is my purpose on the earth? I'm going to tell you what your purpose on earth is right now. Your purpose on earth is to figure out how to align your life so that you feel more energized and excited by it. That's it. And it begins with you following the energy and following your natural enthusiasm. You're not going to think your way to passion. You can't think your way to finding something that you feel in your heart. It doesn't work that way. You got to feel your way into it. It's inside of you. Do you understand? There's no passion out there somewhere. The passion is in here. And so what you have to do first is you've got to stop thinking that you're going to find it somewhere. And you've got to realize that passion is about unlocking something that's already in you. My mind can be my worst enemy. I was laying in bed last night and I had fallen asleep and I kept waking up. And you know what I was thinking about? I was waking up because I could hear people in the hallway kind of coming in from a late night of partying. And you know what the first thing that my mind defaulted to? There being a fire in the hotel. And I started having these visions of my daughter and I going down the stairwell and getting trapped. And then I had visions of us being on the balcony on this room and fire kind of engulfing. And what are we doing? Are we tying a rope? I mean, it's just insanity, absolute insanity. And I used the techniques that I teach you. I went 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I am not thinking about this. And the thought disappeared because I constantly reset my mindset. And, you know, one of the reasons why I'm telling you this is if you are tired of feeling negative, if you feel often that your own thoughts are the things that trip you up in life, that you wish that your mind were more positive, I'm telling you that I'm the same way. Just because I teach this stuff, just because I study this, just because I do what I do for a living, doesn't make me immune to what it means to be human. And what it means to be human is that your brain and your body want you to survive. Your brain and your body remember situations that scare the daylights out of you. Your brain and your body try to talk you out of anything that makes you feel risky. And your brain, given that it has been trained by situations in the past, and given that you allow it to worry all the time, you have a habit of doing it, if you're not careful and you're not deliberate, your brain will default to scary crap like mine was last night. That doesn't mean you're broken. It means that your brain is thinking something that's broken, and it's time for you to reset your mindset and pull it back. Do you know what the one strategy that is associated with making more money for women? Do you know what is one strategy that will help you make more money as a woman when you work in a company? You can put it in the comments. You can guess. No, it's not working longer hours. No, it's not taking the notes in the meeting. No, it's not doing everybody else's work for them. The one strategy based on research that will actually translate to you making more money is making sure your achievements are known. And I want to dig deeper into this because there are two kinds of work, right? Two kinds of work. I want you to shift your paradigm in the way that you think about work, because you do two kinds of work. You do work that is visible, and that is the work that you get credit for. So visible work consists of the ideas that you share in a meeting. It consists of the things that you talk to your boss about. It consists of the work that you're doing that people see. It consists of the results that you generate that are reported and discussed. And most importantly, it consists of the projects that you are working on that are strategically aligned with the goals of the company that people know about. Invisible work, on the other hand, is all the stuff you don't get credit for. So all those folks that you mentor in private, you're not getting credit for that. You should still do it, but I'm going to tell you how to do it differently. Answering the same question over and over and over again from multiple people on telephone calls, that's invisible. And if you only make one change this year in your career, I want you to take on a habit of making sure your accomplishments are known, that the things that you're doing are more visible. The most important thing, hang out with people that cheer for you. This is so important. I can't say this enough. Behavior is contagious. They have proven this. Google the Framingham study. It was a really famous heart study that was done where they looked at human behavior over what's called a longitudinal study, which basically means they studied people for a number of years. And they found that you catch the behavior of other people. If you hang out with smokers over time, your objection to smoking lowers because you're hanging out with smokers and you become socialized to it, and you are more likely to smoke. If you hang out with happier people, if you hang out with people that are more successful than you, if you hang out with people that run all the time, guess what happens? You become socialized to those positive behaviors. The fastest way to make a behavior change is to hang out with people that are positive, that are cheering for you, that are up to cool stuff, that are so busy and engaged in their life, they don't have time for passive aggressive bullshit because they're busy building something and being appreciative. And that's who you should hang out with.
What do you do when you feel overwhelmed? Because your home life, your work life, your side hustle, trying to take care of yourself, you can't find the time. What I always do is I always come back to the basics. When you tip into overwhelm, go back to the basics. Start with a morning routine. I know the second that I am in overwhelm, which I am right now, I have lost the discipline of having a consistent morning routine. I still wake up without my phone. I still don't look at my phone, but I haven't taken those 30 minutes every morning for myself to plan my day. So I have been waking up, I don't look at my phone, but I go straight for the coffee. I think about what I need to do, and since every single day this week it's been a speech or a massive meeting, that's taken precedence, but I have not put in the discipline that I talk about all the time of just taking 30 minutes to plan what's important to me.
You know when you start to say, I have to finish the newsletter. I have to work on my book. I have to do that thing that I need to do. I have to pick up my kids. I have to talk to. Switch have to with get to. It's a little word reversal that changes everything. I get to work on the newsletter this morning. And I get to write something that almost 400,000 people are going to read. I get to work on a book manuscript today as we fly to Orlando. I get to pick up my kids tomorrow when I land. I get to start to say I get to, because that switch of going, I have to, which adds weight and burden, switching it to I get to makes it a privilege. It makes you be grateful about what you get to do, because honestly, it is a privilege, whatever it is that you're doing. And when you come from that place and you think this, I get to, not that, I have to, you will bring power to what you get to do. When people are passive aggressive, or they give you fake compliments, or they give you the silent treatment, typically that's fueled out of jealousy. And jealousy is nothing more than an emotion that people feel when you have something that they feel they deserve. And a lot of us feel jealousy because it's easier to be jealous of somebody and to stay in a negative state than it is to push yourself to do the work to get the thing that you want. And so it's almost like it's your unrealized dream showing up in your face. And what's also right in your face is the fact that somebody else worked for it and you haven't yet. And so instead of going, oh, note to self, time to start cheering for myself and use that example as something positive to motivate myself, a lot of people tend to be like, I hate you. I hate you because you have what I have. So here's what you're going to do when you deal with people that are passive aggressive or jealous. First of all, don't get triggered by it. That's their stuff. It's not your stuff. Second, you're doing the right thing. If people ask, share what worked for you. Third, distance yourself. You don't need to hang out with these people. If you're making positive changes in your life, hang out with the people that are cheering for you. Just because you've known people for years doesn't mean you have to hang out with them for the years to come. So distance yourself. And fourth, if it's really passive aggressive, say something. The reason why your life isn't changing is because your thinking isn't changing. If you wake up every morning and the first thought in your head is making yourself wrong, why can't I just get out of bed? Why can't I just go exercise? Why can't I eat healthy? The reason why you can't change is because your thinking is stopping you. Feel the fear and do it anyway, that famous quote. I want to tell you a little bit about the science. So there's this famous neuroscientist called Antonio Damasio, and he did a really interesting study where he discovered that our body senses fear before our mind even realizes it. And when fear or danger
speaking to your boss, calling a prospect, going to the gym when you're not proud of the way that you look. And, it's not fear like terror. It's more that low-grade agitation in your body. I felt it yesterday because I went to a boot camp class yesterday, and I'm not in good shape, and I don't do boot camp classes. And Kendall and I are staying at this hotel where, holy cow, everybody seems like there's some sort of professional weightlifter or Instagram model. And so it was really intimidating, and I could feel that agitation in my body. That's the kind of fear I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the paralysis fear your life is threatened and you really are in a life or death situation. I'm talking about the low-grade agitation that is there when you're about to do something that makes you feel a little uncomfortable. So when fear or danger is sensed in the body, your body begins a stress response before your mind even catches up. And if you want to take control of your life, you got to take control of that physical state. And it starts with catching these moments, everyone, when you start to feel it. For those of you that feel very overwhelmed because of home, work, side hustle, and you're a woman, you probably also feel guilty about taking time to work on your side hustle. That's because women, girls, we are raised to be good girls, we're raised to be good daughters, we're raised to be seen and not heard, we're raised to take care of people. It's socialized into you. And you see your mothers, by the way, also sacrifice everything to take care of everybody else and to put themselves last. This is a learned behavior. So if you also are a woman, you probably feel guilty for taking time for yourself. Stop that. You have to stop that. The reason why you have to stop that is, first of all, if you're a mom, you've got to show your daughters and your sons what it looks like to pursue your dreams. Secondly, as a woman, you're not going to get what you want if you're constantly putting guilt on yourself for taking time for yourself. And third, the only way you will discover the power and potential inside of you is if you push that generational bullshit to the side and you actually realize that your life is for you. That your mom, you know why she sacrificed everything she did? Because she wanted you to pursue your dreams. So knock it off with the guilt, because the guilt is also contributing to the overwhelm. The guilt is making you not talk to your partner or your boss or your colleagues or your friends about what you need for support. The guilt is adding weight to you not being able to carve out the time and be disciplined to find the time for yourself. And so it has got to go. You hear me? Get rid of it. Isn't it interesting that age is something that measures the amount of time that's gone by, but don't you have a lot of baggage about your age? You're either too young or you're too old or too much time has passed or you blew it and you wasted your 30s or now that you're 40 or this or you're only 20. I mean, it's insane how much baggage we all have about our age. And so I'm writing about how to remove that story and how to recognize that whatever time has passed, whether it's a teeny amount of time because you're just a high school student or it's a lot of amount of time because you're 60 years old, and to understand that life is an inside game. And it's all about your mindset, and it's all about what you do with the time that you have right now. You can launch anything. You can begin anything, period, as long as you are willing to do the work for it. If you're somebody that suffers from anxiety, first of all, here's what you need to know. It's not a disease. Period. It's not a disease. Here's what you need to understand. Anxiety always begins with a worry. Always. It begins with a thought that is triggered by something. So if you suffer from anxiety, you wake up in the morning and your mind spins. You lay in bed at night and your mind spins. You walk into work and you feel anxious in your body. I want you to write down all the things that trigger you to feel anxious. Interestingly, another major trigger is being home or going home and that moment right before your partner walks in the door. If you feel anxious when your partner's about to walk in or you're about to walk into your own home, that is a major signal that you're in the wrong relationship, that there is something incredibly off and you either need to get into counseling, but that is one that we hear a lot about.
Wow.
Because you're walking into a situation that feels uncertain.
Yeah.
A lot of people, by the way,
had parents that were abusive or parents that were yellers. So they also are experiencing ghosts from the childhood of it's 5 o'clock, dad's about to come home and pour a drink, and everybody's on edge.
Yeah.
So write down the triggers, okay? Because having kind of the triggers ahead of time will help you come up with a plan for how you're going to catch yourself when your mind defaults to the automatic ways that it thinks. Then what I want you to write down next to the trigger is what exactly are you worried about? So having the trigger and then the what do I worry about? I worry that my boss is going to yell. I worry that my partner's going to yell. I worry that I'm going to get in trouble. I worry that my friends are going to laugh at me. I worry that I'm going to be whatever the it may be. Then what you're going to do is you're going to write down what I call an anchor thought. An anchor thought is something that weighs you down and it makes you excited. And so here's how the strategy works with the 5-second rule. The next time you're in a situation, and let's just use the example of pulling into your own driveway or your own apartment, and maybe you've got issues with your boyfriend or girlfriend or your roommate, and that makes you unsettled. The second you pull in and you feel the trigger, you're going to go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, because I want to interrupt your mind from going into the I don't like, what if I do this? And then you're going to drop in the anchor thought of the last time that you and your roommate really got along well, or the last time that you stood up for yourself and it went fine. And
or your puppy.
Yeah, or a puppy or whatever. And you're going to say, I'm so excited to deal with this.
Yeah.
And then you're going to get out of your car, even though your body is going to feel a little unsettled and your mind's going to race. Go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If you start to be like, but what? And then walk in the door. And what I'm teaching you to do is to not let your mind hijack you.
Right.
And it's very important because there's a very tight nexus between your habit of worrying and spiraling your thoughts and the way your body starts to amp up. And so we want to settle your mind so we don't agitate your body. You got it?
Yeah.
And so if you start to practice that over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, and for you 18-year-olds that are watching this, use this with the nerves that you have about what you're going to do with your life. Use this when you catch yourself worrying about college applications, because worrying about the applications won't get them done. Worrying about what your friends are doing won't make it happen. Worrying about what you're going to be doing when you're 25 or how you're going to make money, it's not going to help you make money right now. It's only going to make you miserable.
Right.
So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, cut off that habit.
Yeah.
That'll stabilize your body, and then go to a vision of you at the age of 25, driving a car that you think is cool and hanging out with a friend that's cool and saying to yourself, I'm so excited because I know I'm going to figure it out. Because you don't need to worry about that shit right now.
Yeah.
But it becomes a habit that destroys your year this year. So the holidays are upon us, and I wanted to share my 3 rules around the holidays to make sure that even if you have a very dysfunctional family, you can focus on the fun in dysfunctional, okay? So here are my 3 rules. And they're all like the 3 Ps of the holidays, okay? So you can think about holiday dinner, you don't like to eat your peas. These are the Ps that you want to focus on. You ready? Number 1, no politics. Seriously, do not utter anything about anything related to politics. We live in a crazy, polarized, whacked out time right now when it comes to politics. There is no safe topic, even if everybody voted for the same people. Do not discuss it. That's rule number 1, no politics. The second P, leave the past in the past. Do not dance into Thanksgiving dinner or any holiday that you're celebrating during this long season and expect it to be the moment in time that you're going to resolve everything that's happened to you in your past. That belongs in a therapy session or during a long walk in the woods when you're actually focused on healing in the past. For now, you just want to get along with everybody. You want to have a fun time. You don't want to make this too heavy, and you do not want to be the one bringing the drama to the table. Leave that to one of your uncles or your aunts, okay? And number 3, pretend you care, okay? No politics. Don't heal the past. Pretend you care. It's not that difficult. You don't have to love everybody. You don't have to like everybody. But show up and actually demonstrate behavior that makes people feel as if you care. What does that mean? It means ask a lot of questions. Listen. follow up with more questions. And you know the great thing about asking lots of questions of the folks that are there at the holidays with you? Number one, it takes the focus off of you. So if you're worried about talking about where you are or you aren't in your life, ask a lot of questions. You won't be talking about yourself at all. And number two, when other people are talking, they think you're very interesting. That's true. The secret to human beings is be interested, because when you're interested in everybody else, suddenly you're the most interesting person in the room while they're talking. One of the things that I've learned in my business is that the mistakes are where all the learning is. And actually, the mistakes and the imperfect stuff, that's where the gold is, everybody. And so as you're sitting there and you're thinking about doing stuff and you're trying to make it perfect and you're trying to come up with the right script before you make that cold call, or you're trying to make sure your body looks perfect before you put yourself out there on Match, you are missing out on your life, period. And so I hope that if there's one thing that I consistently inspire you to do, it's to start before you're ready. It's to put yourself out there and make mistake. It's to have yourself go live and have it look like crap and all of a sudden you disconnect yourself, and to be able to laugh at yourself, to be able to shake it off. Like, that is a skill. It's a skill that means that you're self-aware. It's a skill that means that you're growing. There's a lot of you that are running from things instead of running to things. And that's a huge difference, running from something versus running to something. And so I want you to think about that for a minute, because you don't have to move across country to change your life. And you don't have to do something drastic to experience drastic positive change. And here's the thing about running away from your problems, running away from your past. Have you ever noticed that when you run away, it tends to follow you? You know, I used to have this problem in relationships. And the reason why I had this problem is because I was a very unhappy person. I didn't like myself truly as a person until probably 4 or 5 years ago. I spent, as sad as this is, I spent the first 46 years of my life really not liking myself, really feeling like I wasn't a good person, really questioning the sanity of people that were in love with me or that were friends of mine, because I had such a low opinion of myself. And it didn't matter. You know, I was guilty not of moving from one city to another, but I was guilty of moving from one person to another. That I would literally get in a relationship, I would be in a relationship for a year, and then I would start to feel that unsettled feeling. Because what happens after a year of being in a relationship? Well, you got to start working on it. It's no longer the thrill and the delight and it's new and you're dating. Now it's just you and the person in your life. There's nothing new about it. And so all your old crap starts to show up. And that's when you got to start to do the work. And so it was about the year or the year and a half mark in almost every single relationship that I would start getting that itchy feeling. And the reason why I was getting that itchy feeling is because my past was now there. This new relationship was no longer new. And so I was no longer distracted by it. And I was going to have to deal with myself in order to be happy. And so what did I do for years? Not even just years, decades, everybody. I'm not proud to admit this, but I would literally jump out of one relationship and into another new one, because another new one would distract me from the fact that I was an unhappy person. True story. And I think a lot of you who are unhappy with yourselves are looking to move jobs or looking to move the city that you live in, or you're looking to change your relationship. And the problem isn't where you live. The problem isn't your job. The problem isn't the person that you're with. The problem is how you feel about yourself. If you're not facing a breakup personally in your romantic life, you still want to pay attention, because somebody that you care about might be. And this is advice that you can give to them. Also, breakups happen in your career. You might be breaking up with a work situation. You might be breaking up with a friend. I know a lot of us are working hard to draw boundaries and to surround ourselves with more positive people. And we get questions every day about how you do that. And so breaking up with friends can be just as traumatic as breaking up
with somebody that is a romantic partner. I have 3 steps to getting over a breakup that I'm going to explain in a minute. But first, I want to explain some research to you to help you put what you're feeling into context. Because what you're going through when you break up with somebody or you're broken up with is you literally go through withdrawal. I'm not kidding. And yeah, I'm using the word withdrawal. Where else do you hear the word withdrawal? You hear the word withdrawal when you hear about people withdrawing from a drug. And that's a lot similar to what you're going through. In fact, there was a study done by neuroscientist Lucy Brown who found that, like drug abuse, romantic love begins with that euphoric feeling. It's a high, right? And when the drug leaves your body or the romance leaves your life, what are you left with? You're left with the withdrawal, which is a craving for it. Validate. Number 1, breakups are painful, but they don't need to lead you broken. So I want you to validate where you're at. It's great that you're asking the question. You got to have a little bit of compassion for yourself. You got to understand that you're going to be sad for a while, but please don't pour gasoline on the sadness fire. Please, please, please don't be staring at photos of your ex. Please don't be putting his or her social media face right in front of your face. It's going to make it worse. But definitely validate the sadness because you're going through a major change and it might not be a change that you wanted. Number 2, separate. This is the most important part because the other thing that I don't think any of us realize is that when you get broken up with or you break up with somebody, you don't realize how much of your daily routine and the habits that you have and the way that you go about your day was tied to the person that you're no longer with. And so what you're not only dealing with is not only missing the person, but your whole life schedule may have just been thrown off. Maybe you two went to the same gym in the morning. Maybe you got a text in the morning from this person. Maybe you liked your little FaceTime call at work. Maybe your friend group became their friend group. And now all of a sudden that you're broken up, because you hung out with their friends all the time, you don't have that social life anymore. And so it is so important for you to recognize that you're not only facing the person being gone, but the habits that marked your day and the other people that maybe you hung out with and the things that you did with your time and the music that you listened to and the food that you ate, that those might have all been dictated by the person you were with, and those are changing too. So it's important for you to separate yourself. I think a lot of women in particular, when we get into a relationship, we tend to lose ourselves. We tend to morph into the person that we're dating. I used to do that all the time. And so now we get to the third part. As you start to think about separating, right? So you're validating where you're at, you're separating from this person. We need to get to the third part, which is celebrating you. Now that you're broken up, you have an opportunity. You have an opportunity to rediscover yourself because I guarantee you, you lost a bit of yourself in that relationship. And so as you think about the way that the structure of your day has changed, what can you proactively insert that is a celebration of the things that you stopped doing? What have you been keeping yourself from doing because you were in this relationship that would celebrate you? Who are the friends or family members or colleagues that really lift you up? And how can you find more time to hang out with them? This is a time to celebrate a moment when you get to rediscover you. I've looked into the research. There's only one habit and skill, just one, that has a direct impact on how much money you make, a direct impact on whether or not you get the promotion and the influence and the cash money that you deserve. And do you know what that is? Any ideas? The one skill, the one habit, the one thing that has a meaningful behavior change that impacts what you get. It's your visibility. You see, you don't get credit, you don't get paid for, and you don't get graded on the things that people can't see. In order for you to get what you deserve, you have to start being deliberate about your visibility, behavior that you got to start learning to do, whether you're shy, whether you're introverted, whether English is your second language, it doesn't matter. You've got to learn how to speak up.
You've got to learn how to share your ideas. You've got to learn how to talk about your business. You've got to learn to talk about your dreams and your goals. And I know for many of you, that is one of the most terrifying things in the world. You hate being the center of attention. The idea of speaking in a meeting at work and risking sounding like you don't know what you're talking about is really scary. The idea of asking for feedback from your boss or asking for a raise, really scary. The idea of going in and talking to your professor about adjusting your grade, really scary. The idea of raising your hand, I get it. I read your emails, I see the comments, but you've got to understand that this is the number one skill that you need in order to increase your visibility, wherever it is that you need to increase your visibility. The world doesn't need another perfect person. The world needs you. And you're trying your best. You're doing what you can. And, I think it's really important that you cut yourself a break and that you stop thinking that you have to be perfect. There are going to be days where you're an hour late to pick up your kid, and that's okay. There are going to be days when you can't get to every email, and that's okay. There are going to be days where you feel so underwater, and that's okay. You'll get through it. You'll figure it out. And you've got to understand that it's not about being perfect. It's about just being you. And that means that you got to be willing to start before you're ready. You got to be willing to do what I do every damn day, which is show up in my rollers or start a live stream and disconnect myself or start it and be talking and not even know that I'm broadcasting. You've got to do that version in your life or you're not going to get ahead, period. Instead of doing what so many of us do when we're broken up with and we go, I'm a loser, I'm unlovable, I'm not good enough. What I want you to do instead is I want you to put that opinion and judgment on the relationship itself. That relationship that's over wasn't good enough, wasn't worthy, and wasn't the right fit for love for you. Do not take that on as an internal judgment of yourself. Make sure that when you're judging it, you're judging the relationship and how it wasn't a good fit for you. You, my friend, are whole. You, my friend, are perfect how you are. And yeah, you may have to change. Yeah, there's things that you can do better now that you know better. Yes, there's baggage you got to deal with, but there's nothing wrong with you. There's just patterns that you need to deal with. You'll get the day where you celebrate, and that was yesterday. And you'll have that moment where you cannot believe that you actually got into the school that you wanted, or you got the job that you wanted, or you found the person that really compliments you finally, or that you got the raise that you wanted, or you built the house that you've always dreamt of. And then a funny thing happens after you actually achieve the dream. After you celebrate, life goes right back to the way that it was. And for me, what I'm present to is not the fact that this talk show is actually happening. I'm focused on all the work that I now need to do in order to do the talk show as powerfully as I can. And I think that the point that I'm trying to make about the fact that, yeah, you can achieve all the things that you're going for, but I've even noticed already in just 24 hours, like the crazy rise in emotion and excitement has already been replaced with things are back to normal. That is exactly what psychologists talk about when it comes to happiness, because happiness is not about achieving things. It's not about getting the result. It's about how you pursue the things that you enjoy and why you're pursuing them. And so the key to life, and I'm seeing it happen in my own life, is not actually checking the boxes and getting all those things that you dream about. It's how you go about living your life as you're pursuing them. Because if I were just going to boop, check the box and now I'm done, biggest goal of my life to have a daytime talk show, just achieve that, boop, what do I have to look forward to? Nothing if you've already achieved it, which is why it's so important for you to understand that the real meaning of happiness is about how you show up every day. Yes, you should have big goals. Yes, you should have big dreams. Yes, 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 and yes, you should pursue them. Don't ever think that, quote, making your dreams come true is what actually makes you happy. Because what actually makes you happy is having those big dreams and waking up every morning and doing a little something to push yourself to make them happen. It's about the pursuit. It's really important for your personal boundaries to use what I always talk about, which is empathy. Understand that anybody that's acting out, it doesn't excuse the behavior, it explains it. And it also allows you to separate yourself emotionally
that person is likely miserable. That person has a bad life, which is why they treat people badly. And so if you can start to really use empathy to put it on them versus making it that they are doing something to you, that can help you from getting hooked emotionally. If you start shifting the dynamic, and here's how you do it. You do it by being a fan. What do I mean? I talk about this all the time. If you Google Mel Robbins being a fan, you'll probably come up with like 10 different videos on YouTube about this philosophy. It's a philosophy about leading with appreciation. It's a philosophy about cheering for other people publicly. Because what happens when you cheer for other people is you naturally trigger the law of reciprocity. And even the biggest jerkface, even the biggest curmudgeon, even the biggest, most competitive person on the planet, who might be competitive, by the way, because she's paying for her parents' nursing home bill. And she's feeling stressed out, and she's also divorced. I mean, who knows what's driving this competitive nature? Maybe it's a sense of scarcity and fear and insecurity. And so the opposite of competition isn't more competition, it's connection. And you create connection by cheering for people. The majority of people lack self-awareness at work. You get that? The person who's disrespecting you likely doesn't even know what they're doing. The person who's taking his or her anger out on you likely doesn't know how it's impacting you. You see, when people do this, when they have these kind of toxic patterns, they've been getting away with them for so long because nobody has had the courage to cross-check them verbally on it. And that's where you come in. Lucky you. You're in their life because your purpose in their life is to be the one person that has the courage to actually sit down and have a candid conversation about it. So what are you going to do? How do you have that candid conversation? First of all, try not to make them wrong. Try not to come in and shame them and tell them all the horrible things they're doing, because you'll immediately create a situation where they're defensive. And if the research bears out from Harvard Business School and they actually had no idea that they were doing it, they might get defensive. The better way to do it, the more effective way to do it, is to explain how their behavior impacts you. And when you do that, most people are mortified because most people are venting or are disrespectful, and they're not even thinking about the impact it has because nobody's ever told them. Got to raise your own game. And so what is the game that you play at work? You got to get out of the head that it's all about you. The best team members are always thinking about how to make the team better. The best team members are loyal to the team. The best people to work with are the ones that are in it together. And so in order for you to get your toxic colleague to shift behavior, you got to model it. And here's the interesting thing about the research. When people are working with coworkers or on a team where people collaborate and where you have honest conversations, it creates what we call psychological safety, which basically just means I feel safe working with you. I know that if I come to you with feedback, you'll listen. I know that if I tell you how your behavior is impacting me, you'll actually care. I know that if you need help, you'll come to me, and I know if I need help, I can come to you. That's what psychological safety means. You're a safe person and hopefully a fun person to work with. So you've got to model that. That means you got to ask for support. That means you got to have direct conversations, and it means you got to support your team members too. And do you realize that when you work with other people that do this, team members are 35 times more likely to show visible commitment to your success. And they're 47% more likely when you model it to work hard to build and maintain your trust. So don't ever get resigned in thinking that the way that you behave won't impact how somebody else is behaving around you. One of the most important things when you're in a situation where the truth, the facts are that there is more on your plate than one human being can effectively handle on his or her own, there's a really important moment where you have to surrender to the chaos that your life is for the next couple weeks. Things are going to change when summer hits, but part of what I find personally is that when I resist, and I do resist, I resist what's actually happening when that's not the way that I want things to go. And so if you
start complaining or you start bringing extra weight to all of the things that are going on, it's going to make it feel even more overwhelming. And if you can bring a sense of realism to it. So I call this, and I think Sean Anker's the one that came up with this term, realistic optimism. Realistic optimism is a really powerful mindset because you're not just putting a sunny spin on a crappy situation. You're being realistic about where you are in your life right now. And you are still maintaining an optimistic point of view. And what that means is that you, when you're an optimist, you believe that your actions and your thoughts matter. You believe that you can handle what's on your plate. You believe that based on your thoughts and your actions, you can positively affect the outcome of whatever it is that you're dealing with, whether it's being wildly overwhelmed because you're a single parent, or terrified because you just got a scary health diagnosis, or you're spinning because somebody just told you they don't want to be in a relationship with you anymore. Whatever it is that you're facing that's making you feel overwhelmed, first start with how important it is to be a realistic optimist. So there's a surrendering to what's so, but you're going to stay very optimistic and positive and know that everything that you think and do is in your control. And that when you know that your behavior matters, it gives you a sense of empowerment that's proven by research. Super duper important. It's also why you can have a very hard life right now and a very overwhelming life right now and still be happy. Because you know, based on being a realistic optimist, that this period will pass, and you know that there are things that you can think about and do that are within your control. Oftentimes when you hit bottom, you bounce. And that's where I think the power is, that when the world feels upside down, you always have the power to make it right. When one chapter ends, you always have the power to write a new one. When, you feel like nobody loves you, you have the power to learn how to love yourself. And if there's one thing that COVID-19 has done, regardless of whatever devastation it has caused in your life, is it has forced us all to experience the great pause. And I read that in a Medium article, and I loved that idea of a pause, because I think in 2020, our lives have gotten so fast and so digital. And when you are forced to pause and get present and to slow down, you are reminded of what's actually important. And what's important is your health. What's important is your family and your friends. What's important is whether or not you are taking care of yourself and thinking positive thoughts versus negative thoughts. The world gave us a gigantic experiment where we got to practice and get to continue to practice the most important skill on the planet, which is emotional resilience, the ability to face hard and actually be okay, the ability to face the uncertain and redirect your attention on things that you know that are certain. As is the case in life, you're always going to be growing. And when you hit new chapters in your life, it's really important to be deliberate and mindful about the people that you spend time with and who you surround yourself with. Does that mean you got to ditch your high school friends? Absolutely not. But it might mean that you shouldn't spend as much time with them. It might mean that you should show up to those friendships a little bit differently, and maybe they'll go a little bit deeper. And it definitely means that based on where you are in your life right now, that you should get more proactive about surrounding yourself with a group of new friends or current friends that are up to the same kind of growth that you are.
Why do you think that is in human beings that, if things are going bad, we won't change? If they're going good, we won't change, but it's almost like we need a massive breakdown, near-death experience, divorce, COVID, for us to see clearly to start changing.
Well, there's a really simple answer: patterns. So the thing about all human beings is that we are pattern learning machines.
And if you feel stuck or broken, I guarantee you, while you feel that way, you're not. You have a pattern of behavior or a pattern of thinking that is broken. And we need to be disrupted because we love our patterns. And even people that I know, like
even when we're in pain, even when we're in pain, we love the pain.
Pain's familiar for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, like you may be listening to Lewis and I talking, and you grew up in a super chaotic household. Maybe your parents argued all the time. Maybe your dad or mom were in and out. Maybe there was a lot of fighting. Maybe there was actual abuse. I don't know what was going on, but it was chaotic as hell. And so as an adult, you have vowed to yourself, you're not going to repeat that pattern. But what ends up happening is because as a little kid, you absorbed the pattern of chaos in your nervous system, unless you go about the intentional work of breaking the pattern of chaos, you will create it in your own life because it's what's familiar. You won't understand. Why do I keep dating these assholes? Why do I go to these bosses that treat me like crap? Because you don't know what it feels like to be in a relationship with either a boss or a romantic partner or a roommate that is consistent, because for the first 18 years of your life, you lived in a state called, when's the next shoe going to drop?
Right.
And so wherever it is in your life that something is broken, there is a pattern that you don't see yet that is making you continue to stay in a broken situation. And it's all that thinking, that overthinking, that thinking too big. Thinking big is about dreams. Thinking big is about goals. Thinking big is about your heart and your soul and figuring out what you want. Then once you do that and you think big and you see where you're headed, boom, you got to come back and you got to go brick by brick to make that vision stick. You got to go brick by brick to make the action stick. You got to go brick by brick to lay that pathway forward and to keep going. And let me tell you something. I don't care how busy you are. I don't care how tired you are. I don't care how much there is to do to make this big dream forward. You have time to lay one brick a day. You really do. You really do. And this is the secret, everybody. This is the secret to everything. It's to understanding that there is no timeline to getting your dreams done. All there is to do is to allow your heart and soul to dream big, to see the path forward, and then to pull yourself into the moment every day and have the discipline to be deliberate, to lay one brick on that path. That's it. And to keep reminding yourself that everything that you're learning on the way as you lie bricks down and you move forward a little at a time is helping you build the path. And there will be times that you start to lay bricks in this direction and you realize, whoa, wait a minute, I'm going over here and my dream is over there. I guess I better lay bricks over here and head back in the direction. Then you're going to go this way. That's great, because everything that you learned over here is going to be exactly what you needed in order to be doing what your big dream is. Having a breakdown is one of the biggest things on the planet, because what you get is you get a break from your own bullshit. And you can look objectively at where you are and for the first time look ahead and say, well, what do I want to go create? And 9 times out of 10, if you're discouraged right now, if you've got financial devastation, if you're facing something that is making this moment in time as hard for you as life was for Lewis and I in 2008 during the last recession, I beg you, ask yourself honestly, if what you had is actually what you wanted. The thing that you just lost, that job that you bitched about all the time.
That relationship that was bad to you. Yeah.
Yes. Or the friends you can't hang out with because it's convenient and you're in quarantine. Like, actually ask yourself if this is what you wanted, or were you just used to it? Being used to something, Lewis, I think is the biggest reason why people don't change. I asked my mother. I love my mother. I love my parents. They've been married 51 years, which is a feat because my mom was a teen mom. But I asked her once if she'd go to a personal development seminar with me.
What'd you say?
Are you kidding me? Why would I want to change at my age?
Oh, wow.
I might discover I hate my life.
Wow.
I was like, okay, I'm just going to leave that right there. And I always talk about how you have the power in your life, always. I know that you may have your feelings hurt. I know you may be angry or upset or frustrated. I certainly feel those things all the time in my life, but I want you to understand that no matter what's going on, you always have the power because you can choose what you think and what you do next. You may not be able to control the way that somebody treated you. You may not be able to control the number of promotions that have passed you by. You may not be able to control whether or not your boss is a jerk face or not to you. But you can choose how you respond to these things, and that's where your power is. This is a very important first piece of advice, by the way, is that a lot of times we start to feel the weight of the overwhelm, but we don't get out of our heads. And if you spend too much time thinking about all the stuff that's going on, and you don't go through the process of breaking it down and figuring out what actually is important to you and prioritizing what you're going to do about it, you're just going to continue to feel heavier and heavier and heavier and more sunk. I mean, it's a very, very difficult thing to feel. Why don't you like the size you are?
Because it's unhealthy.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I don't believe in losing weight to be skinny. I believe in getting healthy because of how it makes you feel.
Yeah.
So if you love the size that you are and it's healthy, you should stay the size that you are.
Oh.
But if you look in the mirror and seeing your body the size that it is gives you evidence to say, I'm a piece of shit, or I'm unworthy. What do you say to yourself when you see yourself in the mirror?
All of those things.
Tell me, what is it? Let's get it out of your head and let's bring it to the light, because you feel comfortable saying this to yourself when you're alone, don't you?
It's me.
I want you to say it out loud because it's not okay to say this stuff to yourself. What do you say to yourself that we're not going to say anymore?
I'm disgusting.
I'm disgusting. What else?
I hate the way I look.
I hate the way that I look.
I hate the way I feel.
I hate the way that I feel. Okay. What do you want? What do you deserve?
To feel good when I walk down the street.
Yes. Yes, you do. See, I think at the heart of this is a belief that you don't deserve to feel that way. So who taught you to feel that you don't deserve it? When did you start saying that to yourself, that you don't deserve it, Holly?
Maybe when I was like 6 or 7.
That's usually when it happens. So what I want you to do is I want you to leave here, and what you're going to go to war against is not your weight. You're going to go to war against the pattern in your head, okay? Because the longer you invalidate yourself, the less motivated you're going to be to change.
Yeah.
Because you're beating yourself down. So we got to start with not fixing you. You're not broken.
Mm-hmm.
You're perfect how you are, Holly. You are. I know you don't feel that way, but I feel that way.
Yeah.
It's the pattern up here that's broken.
Yeah.
So we just want you to have a zero tolerance policy for this, like, I'm not worth it, I don't deserve it, I'm a piece of shit, this, I'm all that. No, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, it's like an axe. You got that? And then you're going to come up, what can we say instead?
I can do this.
I do that. I can do this. But more important, I think it needs to be more heart-centered. I deserve to feel good.
Yeah.
I deserve to have what I want. Watch me go get it. My own mind, because it's not something I'm used to yet, is making up stories to cling to the old way of life. This is a moment in time, everyone, please. This is the greatest gift. The greatest gift is this moment of pause where you get in touch with what you actually want. And if you don't have the skills, for crying out loud, look around and take an online course, because if you need skills to prepare yourself for the thing that you want, get them right now. When you hit a moment in your life or your work or your family where you feel very overwhelmed, one of the most important things to not do is to not speed up. I tend to be the kind of person that when I get overwhelmed or I feel the weight of the world on my shoulders or I feel stuck, I tend to start running into a brick wall head first at about 50 miles an hour. That is exactly what you should not do. You should slow down. You should slow down and you should assess where you are, and you should bring that realistic optimism to doing some problem solving and some planning and some decluttering in your very busy life in four main categories, okay? It's so important that you slow down and realize that part of the overwhelm is coming from the fact that you are too busy. There is too much on your plate. There's probably a lot on your plate that's the wrong things. There are probably things that you're thinking about that are not important. And that's why once you slow down, you also start to think about being a realistic optimist. You also need to declutter. And that's where your friend Mel Robbins comes in. Setting a quitting time isn't something that I invented. It's something I stole from a professor at Caltech. And the setting a quitting time habit is so important. It leverages something called Parkinson's law. Parkinson's law is a phenomenon around time that basically says this: anything that you have to get done, you will get done in the amount of time that you give to it. So let me just ask you this. If you think about your to-do list, if you have 10 hours today to work on it, how long is it going to take you to get through it? 10 hours. If you have 10 minutes to get through the to-do list that you have, how long is it going to take you? 10 minutes. Because the things you need to do expand or contract according to how much time you have to give to it. And so what I want you to do right now, because part of your problem with your routine is you don't have one. You allow work to bleed into your evening. You allow work to just constantly show up whenever the email arrives. And you're the one that has to hit reset on your routine so that you don't allow your work to do that. When a manager or a boss defines norms, the team is 73 times more likely to work hard to keep them. And here's the kicker. They're 125 times more likely to address the situation if there's somebody on the team who is not operating within the norms. You know, it's so obvious. I mean, think about it. If somebody were to walk in to work and put their feet up on the desk and turn on porn and be sitting at their desk watching porn, would that be the norm for your workplace? I don't think so, unless you're working for Playboy or you're working in the porn industry. That would be so out of the norm that everybody would address it immediately, period, full stop. And what I want you to understand is that when you take responsibility for how you're acting on the team, and you're collaborative, and you're supportive, and you're putting the team first, and you're modeling that behavior, and when you also bring the courage, and you dare, as Brene Brown says, to be brave enough to have honest conversations with your colleagues about what's acceptable and what's not based on how things are impacting you, you personally shift the culture in a positive direction. Now, here's a trick about gratitude. Writing down what you're grateful for doesn't work unless you do it this way. Because if I ask you what you're grateful for, everybody says the same thing. I'm grateful to be alive. Mm-hmm. I'm grateful for my health. Mm-hmm. And I'm grateful for my family. Mm-hmm. And that's so generic that you're not retraining your brain.
Right.
You've got to add in the because.
Right.
I'm grateful for X because.
Okay.
And the added detail will make you change up what you say, and it will also train your mind in a way that's more detailed, so it actually has a lasting impact on the way that you view the world. Just because you identify, and for me as a kid, for whatever reason, I have my own version of feeling invisible and feeling like I'm not good enough. And so my way of coping, both with my anxiety and being a survivor of sexual abuse and wanting love, which we all need, is I was like an overachiever. Mm-hmm. And so I'm the kind of person that's super busy and a go-getter because it got me attention. And if I was the one that was super busy and achieving, I not only got praise, but it also insulates you from other people not picking you because you're the one in a leadership role doing the picking.
Right.
And so there's a part of me at the age of 51 that is realizing that, you know, these feelings of feeling unworthy and this hyper drive to try to achieve, it's all coming from a place of feeling inadequate or like what I'm doing is not enough. And
still,
so that's
at 51, having the talk show, having a best-selling book, having the Audible originals, having the platform everywhere, having the impact, it still don't feel, being the most booked female speaker in the world, like you still don't feel.
It's so stupid. It's annoying. And human beings are annoying. We are stuck with this wiring. Like if you think about it, like all of the crap you believe is probably a hangover from age 0 to 10.
Mm-hmm.
That as adults, we walk around thinking the same stuff we thought as kids. And I can't stand that I feel that way, but knowing it, it allows me to catch it before it stops me from having an event or writing that next book or taking a risk. Here's the thing about morning routines. I think morning routine envy is a real thing. And I do believe that a lot of people lie about their morning routines. I think lying about your morning routine is a real thing. I think pretending you have the perfect morning routine is a real thing. I'm about, when I'm home, I'm almost 80% in my morning routine. I get it done because it's super simple.
Right. So, I mean, I think I need a simple one.
Yes. And when I'm traveling, I almost never get the whole thing done because there's too many excuses. I think the key to having a morning routine, and morning routines are critical because how you start your day has a massive proven impact on how your day turns out. There's one piece of research that I think is really profound, and this comes from Sean Anker. I talked about this yesterday, but I'm gonna tell you this too, Susie. If you consume 3 minutes, just 3 minutes of negative news, of negative television, of negative emails, maybe stressful emails from work or stressful texts from friends, you have more than a 50% chance 8 hours later to say you had a bad day. And the reason why is because of what consuming that kind of information does to your mind. It literally sets your mind up to be on the lookout for things going wrong. And so the reason why a morning routine is actually so important is because, number one, it determines what your priority for the day is. And we also know based on research that your mood in the morning, it impacts your productivity all day long. Everything that I have done since we launched the 5-Second Rule book was in reaction to things that were coming to me. So I never sat out and said, hey, the 5-Second Rule audiobook has been a complete record breaker. We clearly have an audio audience. Let's go pitch Audible. Right. Audible came to me, which is fantastic. I always dreamt about having a talk show, but I wasn't out pitching one. Sony came to me. In fact, the only reason why we got into courses, online courses, and we now have more than 500,000 people that have taken our courses online, was because Success Magazine came to me and said, let's do a course together.
I remember I was there interviewing you for it.
I hated it because what I discovered is I hate being told what to do. And so, but that gave me the idea, we should do courses ourselves. And so this pause has made me stop and go, well, what do I really want to do? And the truth is I want to go and make the biggest possible impact that I can. And I want to collaborate with more people. And I want to do events. And I don't want to be the CEO. I'm a terrible leader, horrible leader, the worst actually, because I'm amazing at coaching. I'm amazing at creating. I'm amazing at reacting. I'm terrible at managing people. I'm terrible at managing a project. I have ADD. I have dyslexia. I'm a bulldozer when I get anxious. I
Very
hate
similar,
it when people.
Mel.
I know we are. That's how we'd kill each other if we were roommates or business partners. But I think understanding yourself is really important. And so there's a couple things that I've decided. Number one, I'm going to consciously create the next chapter.
And what is that?
And I'm still in the middle of doing it.
Yeah. But you want to do events, you want to do these things you're talking about. Yeah.
Yes. And I want to collaborate more with a wider audience of people. And I want to build a brand bigger than Mel Robbins.
Yep.
I don't want it to just be me. I want to build a platform-based business that reaches more people. Because here's the thing that got me through kind of the loss of the talk show and the way that I think about things, that I hope helps if you're listening and you're kind of struggling with something. I believe, and I went into the talk show saying this to myself, because there's a 99% chance, based on the history of people that have tried to have a daytime talk show, that it was going to fail. And I went in there saying, I'm not doing this because I expect to have a successful talk show. I'm going to put 1,000% into it so that I have no regrets and I wouldn't change a thing. But I'm going into this because I know that there is a skill, a person, or an experience I am meant to have that will help me for the next chapter that I can't see coming. One thing that's true about life is that things are always changing around you, always. Whether you are moving into a new season or in school, and all of a sudden your kids' school schedules change, or you're moving into a new season of work, and all of a sudden your work life is changing, or you're moving into a new season of your marriage or of your health or of anything. Life changes all the time, which is why it's really important to be self-aware and to make the small changes that help you enjoy and seize all the opportunities from the season of life, work, family, relationships that you're in right now. The only thing that you can do is change yourself for the better and hope that means that when you change for the better, that your friends and the people that you love and care about are inspired and encouraged to change for the better too. And if you have people in your life that are stuck, they probably are also resigned. They don't believe that their behavior can change this. They don't believe that their attitude can change this. Maybe they're feeling a little beaten down. Part of the self-awareness and self-mastery and the ability to move your life forward is not only in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, finding the instant motivation and courage to push yourself forward, but the true liberation and freedom is going to come when you start to understand the body signals that got programmed a long time ago in your body that are holding you back. And learning how in those moments when you get a pit in your stomach to recognize it and slow the body sensations down and then move forward before your mind starts talking you out of it. So a lot of what happens for us is you had situations when you were a kid, maybe your mom or your dad were really intense. Maybe you grew up in a very competitive household. Maybe you were the kind of kid that things were better in your house when you were seen but not heard. And so and your body remembers it. Your body remembers situations when your parents were yelling, because as a kid, it feels traumatic. Your body remembers situations where in a classroom you were nervous or afraid to be called out or be seen. Your body remembers moments when you were embarrassed. And so what's interesting is that your body will now face any situation where you're about to be seen, or you're about to speak up, or you're about to do something where you're facing uncertainty, or you're about to face judgment. And your body remembers those situations and it starts to get nervous or agitated or on edge because it knows, oh my God, you're about to do something that's going to expose you, and your body wants to keep you safe. That's why your stomach starts to go grumbly. That's why your chest starts to get tight, because you are about to do something that exposes you. You're about to do something that is new. You're about to do something that is scary, and your body wants to try to protect you. Now, your body's misreading the situation, by the way.
Because you made it this far in a video, I want to celebrate you. Most people start and don't finish. Most people never actually follow through. Most people say they want something, but they don't ever do the work to actually get it. But you are different. You are special. Believe Nation, you made it here all the way to the end, and I love you. So as a special celebration, if you put a hashtag believe down in the comments below on this video, I will showcase you and celebrate you somewhere on the screen in a future video, because you are awesome. To see my recent interview with Mel Robbins one-on-one, check the video right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
I hope your business goes bankrupt, Evan. Evan, you're a terrible person. I spent the first 40 some years of my life trying to be somebody else. I'll give you guys a secret way